The balcony sessions, part 3. So here I am, not really expecting to do anything for YouTube at all. Just decide I'll put the telly on and have a look for a few GIFs to see what the mainstream media is all up to. What's the current lie of the moment? Where is the deception coming now? Why? Because there is a high intensity level of deception being worked right now. Yes, indeed, high intensity. Therefore they need watching, because there is stirrings. Apart from our stock market smash down, and who knows what else that is engineered in the scene, where all that leverage has to unwind, both retail and institutional. It seems there is an acceleration, a quickening. So I did, in the very first of the balcony sessions, the Facebook narrative. I did a long old rant that tied all a bunch of things up, and I'm going to do two similar things with you today. Facebook story, and I said to you, it's never about the initial story. It's about the reactions and the knock-on effects that gets applied. Think your problem, reaction, solution. So, Sky International. I had the pleasure of Sky News International, that mainstream beacon of truth, facts and honesty, coming at me loud and clear. So, the key thing, Brexit in the UK, Cambridge Analytics has been searched, this London-based company that was behind the data hack. You see how it's no longer about the data hack anymore. It's all about Brexit. It was used. They were Leave EU, the campaign that didn't have the benefit of any tax money, unlike the pamphlets that were paid for Remain by the then Tory government in their impartial state. Leave.eu has been forced into a denial. And remember, in politics, something's never officially true until somebody's properly gone on record as denying it. Yes, that is the Masonic inverse way of things. Much like Theresa May, Brexit means Brexit, and I'll come back to that little one again. And most of this has been predicted by ourselves on this channel. As I said, apart from the pound direction, we've got it all right, including the Brexit. So what's happening? Facebook, yes. So Facebook, apparently, the hack. We're now having Leave EU being accused here in the UK for having manipulated the referendum on Brexit. In other words, the bookies were always right, everyone was always right, something just happened that wasn't meant to happen, and we're going to find out, yes, there was a scam in there. There was a scam in there. All those people that voted Brexit were deluded and been brainwashed or had been manipulated by their social media, Facebook, and the help of the Cambridge Analytics. Only problem is Leave EU said they had a presentation from them pitching for some work, turned them down and didn't engage them, pay them anything or engage their services, and received no work at all from them. But somehow Cambridge Analytics must have had a hand in it somewhere. Anyway, so everybody who voted Brexit, you are a brainwashed, deluded by your social media goon. That's right. And the government's about to prove it. And why would they want to do this? Why are they creating all this fuss? You see how the Facebook hack has actually become every single election, every single referendum, every single political event that didn't give the right, wait for it, the right result was a farce manipulated by social media and AI bots that pulled the wool over your eyes and made you do something you never really wanted to do. Really? I never wanted the EU, and I would have voted against it every single day before Facebook even existed, long after Facebook ever existed, all by my own single critical thinking. Because there's nothing good about having 300,000 lobbyists whining and dining a super EU state that spends 3 weeks in one country, packs everything up and goes and spends 1 week in France so that France feels important, Strasbourg, and then does the same all over again, and you pay for it, and it's called productivity. Alone. Then generates all the laws and that transcend the national laws and what the will of the people and the people they voted in. That ain't democracy. And by the way, trade happened before the EU, will happen after the EU. We don't need the EU to do business with somebody. But anyway, all that aside, I would have voted in the way I would have voted had I voted every time, all the time, every day, before Facebook, long after Facebook, and next millennium. Yep, I have taken the long life pills, and you will see me there. And I will be even more handsome, Benjamin Button style. I'm just going to grow hair, for example. There we go. So I will still vote against it if I was of the voting kind. And I will still vote 10 years ago when I was just 18. Oh, I won't get why that deception, will I? Oh, okay. 20 years ago, 30 years, 40 years, who knows? Okay, so that's the game. You were conned. You were conned by Cambridge Analytics, whether the Leave EU actually ever did contract them or not. Okay, now isn't that fascinating? Note how it's no longer about how Facebook actually allowed data, real data, and remember, ask an email marketeer, the value's in the list and the information. Man, big data. Wow, don't underestimate it. You have a list of people and you know everything they like. Ooh, aren't there some businesses interested in flogging some stuff to guys that like motorcycles, for example, and watch on every Sunday motorcycle movies? What about guys that like to cook outdoors and selling them barbecues and things like that, and have liked every gourmet chef, etc., etc.? What about ladies that love doing X, Y, and Z, or buying shoes? Wouldn't you like to have their email address? Big data is big goddamn money, and we should be focusing on how these guys use our data. How did they allow it to happen? Not every single democratic process was a fraud because the entire electorate was brainwashed by social media AI that never actually got engaged or contracted and was never paid. Okay, but that's how the narrative has changed. That's part of the deception. Why are they doing this? They are doing this because they wish to continue to invalidate the decision that was made. This is Remainer Fest. This is a Remainer Fest, and this is a Remainer government that I told you already gave you the long stop date for the financial reset. And I said nothing's going to happen for a long time. So here are the predictions we made. The predictions we made is Brexit will happen against 1:8 odds or 1:7, depending on which bookie you looked at. It happened. Then we said the pound would go up. We're 100% wrong. They went out and destroyed the currency, even though economically the British economy should have been in a better place for not having to spend that amount of money and continue to build that amount of debt. So we were wrong on that, but practically I still think it was the right call. Then we said it'll never happen. They're going to keep drawing it out, keep delaying it. They're going to swear blind that that's what they're going to do, and it's going to be the Masonic opposite. In other words, it's what they're not going to do. They're going to come across wishy-washy. They're not going to focus on the negotiation. Time will pass. Little will be agreed. There'll be a lot of fractious fighting, barging around, messing about, kicking the can down the road, time wasting, so that other events, which will eventually supersede the democratic referendum result, will come to pass before anything practical and theoretical is done. In other words, we will still be paying to be a member of the EU, but we won't have the contribution of even having a say on it up until the end of 2020. That means January the 21st. That means January the 1st of 2021. Get your facts straight, Francis. Jesus, that's a mint tea I've had, not even a red wine. So let's try that one again. 1st of January 2021 is the first day you might have the possibility that you may not be paying towards a club that can't tell you how much you're paying, but it sure is a hell of a big amount. And that's, wow, that's Brexit. Okay, what else did I see in my little 5-minute cameo of utter deceit? Oh, Westminster and London switched all the lights out for a democratic and symbolic moment of how climate change, it must come to an end, and climate change is one of our biggest challenges, and cities all over the world followed suit, showing solidarity for this massive challenge that the whole world is facing and needs being put in the front of the agenda of everything. Okay, right, let's get straight to this, chaps. Climate change. Climate change is a ruse. Climate change is a full-blown tethered goat. It is a full-blown tethered goat or Trojan horse. I haven't decided which one to call it. So let's be clear on this. Climate change is global government. Why do I say that? Climate change is global government. You see, they're not that interested in winning the argument. They need there to be deniers and fours in the argument of climate change. They need people who want to be pseudo-intellectual and go with the World Economic Forum, the IMF, and any other parasitic Trojan New World Order control structure, institution, and various governments. Anyone remember David Cameron, before he was going even elected, as a Tory leader, doing this little hugger husky skate around the flipping North Pole on a sledge? Anyone remember that? He never did it again, never did it since, never did it before, and did it this once, and next thing you knew, that was him licking the tip of the New World Order phalanx with a little bit of dew on the end. It's kind of like kissing the ring at the weeping wall to show you're a friend of AIPAC for an American future potential president. He went and did the climate change down on one knee thing. Oh, David Cameron and the Tories, climate aware. Why do they do this? So politically, and the control structure and the intellectual academia. Jesus, can't get the words out today. I promise you there's been no red wine involved in making this movie. The academia, the intellectuals and supposed thought leaders, and of course World Economic Forum, IMF, and then new government hopefuls all go do a bow on the climate change. Then when you put a wall in the beach sand, you get the opposition that stacks up against it. Now you think the New World Order and the future global government would be against it? No. No, they are framing the argument. They're actually comfortable with the deniers and the argument that they are making. Why? Because they probably control both, potentially. And even though I would bias towards denial and deception on most things, the key thing is they're getting you to talk about something that needs a global solution. Why do they keep bringing climate change up as the single biggest challenge? Whenever you hear a person or a party say the single biggest challenge is climate change, know that they are an owned entity and part of the control structure. Why? Think about it. The solution has to be global. The solution has to be global. Therefore, it needs to be coordinated globally. Can you understand where I'm taking you? It doesn't help that Iceland fights against climate change, and New Zealand, and Fiji. Okay, I'll throw in Madagascar too. No? Okay, you're not buying? No. It's a global thing, guys. Everybody needs to play the game. So who controls that? Well, you can't have the American government control it. They say you're a big-ass bully who's in every single militarized war everywhere. Other countries aren't going to cooperate. You can't have Europe or the EU or Germany. Oh, the World War II. Oh, all the excuses. Britain, the imperialists. No. A new control panel with global reaching rules. In other words, it entrenches global solution. It is part of the tool to deconstruct nationalism, national borders, and I don't mean nationalism as in BNP for Britain. I'm talking about people being and belonging to a country. It is the border breaking technique. It takes away the ability for individual laws suited to a particular culture that they have prescribed for their localized needs. No. You're part of a big club and you'll do what the big majority tells you. And we control that through the IMF, the World Economic Forum, climate change for global peace, whatever the flipping Connery and Rockefeller funded organizations and institutions will be. Global problem, global solution. Kind of like invaded by aliens. We need all the armies to be part of one army. We'll have one world army, one world solution, one world defense against the bad aliens that are going to come and attack us. It's kind of like that kind of thinking. You need to understand climate change. Every time they bring up climate change, they are advancing new world order, total government worldwide. Total government worldwide. Institutions that transcend geographic borders. And you may say, I'm okay with that. You know, I like to travel easily and all of that. And you think the EU's all hunky-dory. You don't need another super legislative body with even further reaching powers. They are instilling higher levels of pyramid atop you, all of which need funding and will draw resources from an ever bigger base. Why? Because they must. Every nation state is bust, but they believe if you put a whole bunch of bust crap all together and you create a portfolio of crap and you slice and dice it a little bit, it ceases to be crap, and then you can rename it, repackage it, like an SDR, for example, at the IMF, and you can reissue SDRs to countries that run into problems and national debt, and it's got a little bit of Chinese yuan and a bit of dollar and a bit of this and a bit of that, and no one is ever rotten simultaneously, and they can recollateralize that, etc., and it's just layer caking up ever higher into a tighter apex pyramid with new levels of control for which all countries will be forced to bow to. Hey, climate change is a global issue. You got to pay your bit too. They're in the tip of South Africa. They're living in the Falklands on the tip of South America. They're living in Guinea-Bissau, Mali, every single place will be complied, otherwise you'll lose your seat at the UN, otherwise you'll be just indebted and forced to pay it, and it'll be paid on your behalf, and it'll be extracted, and you'll need to make deals and swap coffee and commodities for it. One way or another, you're paying for a global-based solution. Anything climate, hear me now, anything climate change is to create a synthesis, an antithesis, and thereby they synthesize the outcome. Remember, thesis, antithesis, and synthesis. You're for the climate change argument. You think we need to do it. You think it's our biggest challenge. By the way, the planet has had a long history of vacillating over tens of hundreds of thousands of years, up and down, ice age, ice age, methane, hot age, cold age, far broader, far wider than we have encountered in the last 100 years. But anyway, all that point aside, they want you to choose a side, because suddenly you're playing their game. Choose red, choose blue, make sure you vote. You're a Republican, you're a Democrat, you're a Tory, you're a Labour. You're playing their game. You are legitimizing their scam. Thesis, antithesis. You taught it in your sport. Liverpool is red, Man City is blue, or Chelsea's blue. You're taught it in everything you do. Choose a goddamn side and be engaged in my scam. Climate change, scam. Climate change, scam argument for bringing in global national government. It is a ruse and a con. Do not engage in the argument. Do not encourage them. It has probably very little justification in my view, but don't actively become an arguer for or against. Kill this thing. They're going to keep trying to reheat it. They're going to keep trying to reheat it. Just like we called scam on Ebola. We were all supposed to be dead from Ebola, now Zika and everything else, to create global health scares when they need to take a bit of fizz out of the market and some big pharma bastard's got a whole bunch of pills to sell. Let me tell you how this place works. It's a deception city. Mainstream media's deception city. Deception city. Everything you hear from them you should take as hypothesis of some form of deception that you have yet to determine the nature thereof. Let me say that again. Everything you hear from a mainstream media, whether it be Sky News, BBC International, pushing a microchip in the hands for boys and girls who are cool early adopters who can pay for their train with a big blue light beaming in their hand as they swipe it past. Everything you hear is to forward their agenda. Everything you hear you should take as a hypothesis of some form of deception with an ulterior motive for which you have yet to determine. If you're like me, you spend a little bit more time than others determining it. Why? Because you like to understand the game. Or you just watch, subscribe the Reset Sniper, and you get help to be wise. Climate change is a scam to bring in global national control elements. That is the facts. End of story, end of narrative, end of rant. This is Francis from the balcony saying good night, be awake, tell your friends. Oh, one final thing. The Dow's falling. We've been short. We were early on it, although we could have been earlier because I fell asleep. Find out how we did it. 29th of March, 1900 GMT. Go to the www.themarketsniper.com to find out how it gets started. We'll see you at 7. Love to catch up with you then. Bye-bye.